Alright, so in this video we'll be looking at AWS Migration Hub, AWS Database Migration Services. So what is Migration Hub? AWS Migration Hub provides a central location to track progress of application migration across AWS and partner tools. Key features: track migration across AWS services like AWS DMS, SMS, server migration tools, and third-party tools. Group resources into application, view progress from discovery to migration, integrated with application discovery services. AWS Database Migration Service is a managed service that facilitates the migration of databases to and from various AWS services with minimal downtime. It allows you to access, convert, and migrate your data between different database engines, including commercial and open source options. DMS supports both homogeneous and heterogeneous migration. So what this means is AWS enables you to migrate your database within AWS and from outside AWS, and this will be done such that you don't have to worry about downtime. So if I was already running an infrastructure on premises or using a different cloud solution and I want to move to AWS, it's easy for me to migrate my data without worrying about the time it will take to migrate, or manually worrying about if everything migrated possibly. They have a very robust database migration service, and that is what we're looking at. So the key DMS component is to source endpoint existing database, whether it's on premise or in AWS. You need to know where your database is coming from, then your target endpoint, which is the AWS database itself. Then we have what we call replication instance that manages the migration task. So this is it. You want to migrate your database, no matter the size, from one point to another. You need to know the source and the target, which is the destination, and most importantly you need what we call a replication instance. So you are setting up an instance that its purpose is to help migrate this data. So you will not be using any of the engine's resources to push this data. So then we'll have what we call migration task, which defines what and how to migrate. So the steps to do this is to create a replication instance, choose the instance class, the VPC, the subgroup. So setting up the instance pretty much of the server that would run this migration. So it's easy to understand that depending on the size and the capacity of what you want to migrate will determine the kind of replication instance and how fast it would migrate this data. So you enter the connection details, test connectivity, create a replication task, which will choose the type, whether it's a full load, whether it's change data capture, or what have you. Then you start the migration task. So the steps are pretty simple. Create the instance, the replication instance, choose source and destination. Then you create the task itself, then start the migration task. So the use cases are lift and ship migration to AWS, real-time replication of data replicate or reporting. So you might even want to create a replica set without calling it a replica set. Just migrate the data to somewhere else and you can call that place. So you might be migrating from a legacy DB engine to modern or managed AWS DB. So this means that your application is running on a MySQL that you just installed on a local system, and you want to migrate to something more recent or something more robust like AWS, DB. So the benefits is to minimize downtime. During migration is very good to use DMS. It just helps you save your data. There will be no point where the users who are accessing the endpoints of your database will have issues connecting to it. So continuous replication support tracks the entire app migration from a single place. So from one point you can be looking at the progress of your migration. It is secured and highly scalable. So pretty much this is what AWS DMS looks like. I'll be showing you the environment in a bit. Alright, from your AWS console, you just type DMS, go to database migration service. Alright, so once you come to the MS, the first thing you need to do is to create the replication instance. So the replication instance pretty much is where you declare the services that will run your migration. So in this case, I'll just say I'm creating a replication instance for clean HR migration. I'm just giving it a name, put a description. These are optional. Database migration. So here you select the instance type to say, well, this is the instance type I want to use. I'll try to manage the T3 medium and choose my AWS engine type. So this deployment will be on a single, this is just me setting up the replication instance. The replication instance is like setting up an instance that would be responsible for this migration. And once I'm done, I create the replica instance. Okay, the replication instance is being created, and once that is being done, the next thing is to worry about the endpoints. So the endpoints are where you create the source and destination. You set the source of your database. Okay, so once you select your source and target endpoint, here you'll be imputing the label for your endpoint configuration. You choose the type, most likely whether it's a Microsoft SQL or MySQL database. If it's a MySQL database, you provide the access point manually. So here you enter the host name, the port ID, username and password to your database, and you come to the target endpoint. You do the same. The endpoint, you give it a name, you choose the source. So if your target endpoint is a RDS, that's an Amazon RDS, you just select it from here. Otherwise, you manually select the database type and you enter the endpoint username and password to your database, and that's how you create the endpoint. Once you have done that, you'd come back to your DMS and create your migration task, meaning that you're ready to migrate. So what type of migration do you want to do? So you select the endpoint, you label the endpoint, and that is where you initiate the migration process.